You want to?
The next item is the blueprint update. Dr. Sampson, Mr. Walker, and Mr. Kurtz.
Good afternoon, President Cousins, Dr. Townsend, and members of the board.
Turn your mic on and pull it closer to you, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Cousins, Dr. Townsend, and members of the board. I'm Joe Sampson, the coordinator for Maryland Leads Grant and Blueprint in Calvert County. With me, I have Mr. James Kurtz and Mr. Sandy Walker, and they'll introduce their roles in this process as we move forward. Today, we're going to give an overview of the Maryland Blueprint, recent updates, and revisit our timeline for implementation. I also have these two gentlemen are going to give updates on policy areas 4 and 5, respectively. So this slide shows you a review of the blueprint activities as a refresher. In April, MSDE released an FAQ document regarding NBC, which is National Board Certification, the salary increase that went into effect for this coming school year. And on April 26th, a presentation was made to the CTE Local Advisory Board and provided an overview of the blueprint and specific impact on college and career programs. On May 4th, the Calvert County Blueprint Committee held its initial meeting. The agenda reviewed the charge of the committee and provided an overview of blueprint legislation, and the next meeting is scheduled for August the 3rd. On May 5th, the Accountability and Implementation Board, which will be further represented as the AIB, met to discuss MSDE's proposed changes to the teacher preparation requirements in Maryland, which would extend the length of the student teaching practicum to a full school year beginning in 2025. So recent updates from the AIB, they provided materials and information on each pillar, which will also be described as policy areas, during meetings in June. These were informal planning sessions designed to give overviews, and it allowed presenters to explain the purpose behind the work. Information was presented as a means to give added perspective. No action items were taken during these meetings, and the AIB will get into suggestions, action steps, and timelines during the work sessions, the first of which actually is in session right now. So beginning with today's meeting, the July and August meetings, again, they're work sessions focusing on the implementation, where they'll look at the law and differences in interpretation of the law, develop solutions to issues yet to be resolved, and identify issues that may require changes in statutes. The AIB did announce their remaining workshop dates for the summer, with the next two workshop dates being July 20th at 1 p.m. and July 28th at 3:30 p.m. Agendas for those workshop meetings will center on pillars or policy areas 3 and 4 on the 20th, and then policy area 1 on the 28th. Additionally, the AIB will have its website published soon, which will provide additional information and updates regarding the blueprint. Regarding the AIB meetings held on June 23rd and June 30th, just some updates. The 23rd meeting was planned as a part of the Blueprint Implementation Planning Series, and that was session 3, and the focus was on Pillar 1, early childhood education, and Pillar 4, more resources for students who need them. The focus was on the infrastructure and how systems are and can be aligned compared to other world countries such as Finland, Singapore, and Australia. The June 30th was a planning session which focused on Pillar 2, high quality and diverse teachers and leaders. And the information and presentations during both of these sessions were approaches to reform, and the AIB revisited the conversation of expanding the teacher practicum. A presentation also was made regarding the National Board Certification process and provided research behind the NBC and its effect on teacher retention and student outcomes. The discussion centered on elevating the teacher profession through the MBC process, similar to how the medical profession did with the medical board exam and the law profession did with the bar exam. The goal is to make MBC the norm across the state, and the major change to this policy is that teachers can now begin the process to pursue their national board certification once they enter the profession, as opposed to waiting 3 years and then apply. So although they can work toward those components as soon as they walk in the door, they won't get the actual certification until after their 3rd year. What this also does is put teachers on a trajectory on the career ladder, because they would start on level 2 of the career ladder and then reach level 3 upon certification. So future implementation dates. Deadlines will be met over the next few years, and they're represented in this slide. It's not an all-inclusive list, but just highlights some of the major milestones. So by July 1, expert review teams, July 1 of 2023, expert review teams will have been deployed in 10% of schools. By July 1st of 2023, pathways related to college and career programs will be implemented. By July 2024, local career ladders will be implemented, to which Mr. Navarro presented information at the June Board of Education meeting. By July 2024, teacher evaluation must be aligned to national board certification, and more guidance will be provided when available. And by July 1st of 2026, the minimum starting salary for teachers will be $60,000. Now I'll hand it over to Mr. Walker, who will provide information on Policy Area 4.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, President Cousins, Dr. Townsend, and members of the board. My name is Sandy Walker. I'm the Supervisor of Equity and School Improvement. Today, I'm going to inform you about Policy Area 4, more resources to ensure all students are successful. I will say that as our work group has been going through the language, we have a lot of questions, and I think some of that will be resolved with the timeline that Dr. Sampson had mentioned as well. So knowing that there are still a lot of questions in this area, and I'll talk through that. So overall, the twin goals are to elevate the overall student performance of Maryland students to an international standard and eliminate opportunity and achievement gaps. The Commission made it clear that this is not the work of one policy area, rather it permeates the recommendations across all 5 policy areas. The Commission wants to ensure placing a focus on students who are often left behind in the educational system, and the Commission is recommending more resources to those students who need it the most. One point of interest, some districts refer to these students as at risk because they are at risk of failing to succeed in school. The Commission prefers the term at promise instead of at risk, because students have the promise and potential to be successful in school if the educational system is designed to meet their needs. This language is important because it's a key shift from a belief that something is wrong with the students who are performing poorly to the belief that something is wrong with the system and there are tweaks and fixes that we can make in the system in order to meet the needs of all students. Moreover, it's the foundation for the thinking behind the blueprint, and that's key in Area 4. Next, I'll share with you the elements of Policy Area 4. To begin with, broad and sustained new academic, social service, and health supports for students in schools that need it the most. And I'll speak a little bit more about this bullet in a few minutes. Increasing funding for special education significantly to improve outcomes. CCPS has received current funds to supplement services for students with disabilities. These funds have been used to hire additional staff to support students with struggling behaviors, as well as additional teaching and instructional assistant positions. Funds have been utilized to support additional training and interventions such as IKURU, and that's a trauma-informed care approach. Additional funding for English language learners, English learner students, including EL family coordinators. At this time, there's no further information or guidance about this. I do know that statewide representatives from local school systems have been discussing and compiling best practices. This may develop into guidelines or requirements for local school districts throughout the blueprint guidance. We'll keep you up to date on that as well. Establishing a transitional supplemental instruction for struggling learners program to provide additional funding for one-on-one and small group instruction for students who are not on track to reading at grade level by grade 3. Reading is a critical tool for learning all other content. In 2019, the Ready to Read Act was passed in Maryland and can help districts prevent and address reading gaps for students who may be at risk for reading difficulties. The Ready to Read Act and the Code of Maryland Regulations, COMAR, requires these things: screening for all kindergarten students and identified first grade, second grade, and third grade students who may be at risk for reading difficulties, provision of supplemental reading instruction for identified students, annual reporting requirements, and evaluation of the screening program. CCPS is already completing each of these requirements. The board may be interested in perhaps in a future session of receiving information about all of the work that has been done to meet the requirements of the Ready to Read Act. Currently, CCPS does not meet the eligibility criteria for concentration of poverty school grants, which fund community schools to provide social services, before and after school summer academic programs, and expanding student access to school-based health services. These are focused on schools that have a poverty level of greater than 55%. We don't have that, and that's a lot of the language that's in policy area number 4. However, as Dr. Johnson had talked about earlier, we had earned the Supplemental Instruction and Tutoring Grant, and she had gone through that, where tutoring is available to students in grades K through 12, and sessions are limited to no more than 4 students. Here are, I mentioned earlier, the key timeline points. What we're really looking forward to is September 1st of this year, where MSDE will provide us with criteria for local implementation plans. Our hope is at that point we'll have an understanding of what exactly they would like us to report on, and more direction, especially in this area, of what they would like us to implement. And also key is March of 2023, where local districts will have to submit their plans. So September and December are key months to help us make sure that we're in alignment with what's being asked of us. And just a couple of other items from this policy area. It's training of all staff in behavioral health. Currently, we already do that, and our staff receive annual training during the fall. Schools are also required, school systems are required to have a mental health coordinator, and we have that as well. Also, restorative practices is, there is some language about that. Again, looking for the criteria of the expectation for the plan. Currently, CCPS has a Train the Trainer program, and so each school building has a designated trainer for restorative practices. We also have funding, ESSA funding, to provide staff with training as well. And I'll skip down to the last bullet, which is behavioral screening. As a part of our MTSS, Multi-Tier System of Support Committee, we are looking to identify, as a part of our implementation plan, to identify a screener, a behavior screener for students. And that screener is, it's really testing areas where students are identified as could use some assistance in areas. So that is a part of our implementation plan. And so that's what our committee has been doing, is looking at the language, determining, okay, what is it that we have, what do we meet, and just continuing to look for guidance with some of that language that's in there. Are there any questions for me? Thank you.
Okay, and good afternoon once again, President Cousins, Dr. Townsell, members of the Board of Education. Once again, James Kurtz, Director of Student Services. Policy Area 5 is governance and accountability, and outlines state and local guidelines governing the accountability of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Most of the specifics of the governance and accountability measures are still being determined, as has already been mentioned by the AIB, and the information you will hear today is a broad overview of Area 5. Policy Area 5 is subdivided into 6 elements, as you can see here on the screen: the Independent Oversight Board, tracking and reporting progress on subgroups, tracking and reporting progress on the CTE pathway, tracking and reporting progress on teacher prep programs, funding with the 25% implication, and funding with the 75% implication. Element 5A describes the functions of the Independent Oversight Board. As you can see, the Independent Oversight Board is charged with developing a timeline for the comprehensive implementation plan, including key milestones, developing guidelines and criteria for locals to submit detailed implementation plans consistent with the CIP, reviewing and approving local plans, monitoring implementation, gathering data to analyze the impact to student achievement, contracting with experts, and reporting progress to the governor annually. In element B, it describes the process by which MSD will create, which you've heard in previous presentations, the expert review teams to conduct on-site investigations of poor performance and make recommendations for improvement. The expert review teams, will consist of career ladder people and expert teachers and leaders. These expert review teams will be trained, and their purpose will be to interview, observe, and analyze data to determine the extent to which schools, to which the school's plan is being implemented and the extent to which recommendations of the ERTs are being implemented. It is stated that expert reviews are to begin in year 3 with the lowest performing schools every year and lower performing schools less often but frequently. All other schools will be randomly selected. Schools not selected will be able to request a review. These reports in years 3 through 4 are strictly advisory. In year 5, reports are to be used by MSD to recommend to the Oversight Board if money should be withheld in year 6 until improvement is made. In element 5C, the description centers on the fact that the CTE committee will track and report on the progress of students in each Maryland school with a CTE pathway. Thus, the CTE committee will be charged with establishing performance metrics for schools with CTE programs and pathways. In addition, the CTE committee will use state accountability data to determine which schools are not making adequate progress, and expert review teams are to determine the reasons for the inadequate progress and make recommendations on how to correct the problems. CTE committees will be informed by the expert review teams on the release of the funds linked to student performance. They should be given adequate time to respond, but it should be noted that adequate time will be given to respond to the recommendations and make improvements based on the feedback. It is noted that the relevant stakeholders will review these recommendations and plans may be required. As an example of a recommendation that may be made is to pair struggling schools with another school with similar demographics but good performance. In element 5D, MSDE and MHEC, Maryland Higher Education Center, will be required to track and report progress on teacher prep programs in the state in upgrading the quality and standards of their programs. This will include reporting on teacher quality, the number of teacher applications and acceptance to programs, the proportion of teacher graduates of the teacher education programs who majored as undergrads in the subjects they plan to teach, the proportion of teachers hired who were trained in the state versus out of state, and the satisfaction of the school district officials with new teachers who have recently graduated from Maryland institutions. And element 5E states that beginning in year 6, not less than 25% of new funds will be released only on approval by the Oversight Board based on appropriate implementation of any recommendations of the Commission. The plan submits addressing areas noted in recommendations, and the student body as a whole and subgroups make adequate progress towards college and career readiness. And finally, in element 5F, it states that not less than 75% of the enrollment-based formula funds allocated to school systems or schools on the basis of the needs of the students enrolled in that school will flow down to the school and are to be used by the school to educate the children in that school. The design assumption and implementation decisions stated for this sub-area are that there be strong incentives for implementation of recommendations made by expert review teams to achieve progress of underserved student groups. It is noted that the committee does not believe in withholding funds solely based on student performance, and poor performance should trigger more intensive monitoring by expert review teams. Another assumption is that a portion of the funds should only be withheld when a district is not doing what they should be doing, and when funds are withheld, it should only be for as long as it takes to develop a plan, and that there should only be withholdings after an expert review team recommendations are not being implemented adequately after the school or school system is given sufficient time to respond. Thank you.
What committee holds the funds? Is that a state committee? I mean, a policy is a policy, and it will go on forever because there'll always be a policy change. But who's funding all these funds? Is it state, federal, county?
I believe it's the state.
At this point,
It's implied in the plan that it would be the state.
So the plan for this goes out to 2032. And so the idea is that MSD is granting these funds throughout that 10-year period.
Okay, thank you.
Have you guys established a relationship with the county commissioners, or been meeting with them, or updating them?
We have been, and I actually have one meeting scheduled tomorrow with the co-chair, and just to talk through some things in preparation for the next meeting.
Thank you.
So I had questions on the expert review teams. I mean, it sounds like a tremendous idea that they actually put expertise on the ground. We're into the schools to help some schools meet the guidelines of the whole blueprint. And, you know, we've always said that we should be, the state should help us share best practices, right? You know, as some schools doing great, bring those methodologies into the struggling schools. So it sounds like review teams are, but do you have any feeling for how many of these? Because if they're talking by 2023 to have at least 3 districts have 10% of their schools covered with expert review teams, does that mean there could just be one expert review in each district and they just sort of go around to the different schools? Do we know physically how this would work and how much time they can devote to a school system?
We don't right now. The training is going on right now, and I believe they've hired just over 100 expert reviewers for this coming school year, with the anticipation of expanding that number each year.
So are these current employees in the schools? Or is these
They are.
they'll be working for the state?
They could be they could be teachers, they could be administrators, central office personnel. It just depends. Then there was an interview and hiring process, so it varies by district.
But they're working for the state, or they're still working in the school systems?
They're still working in their respective
Oh, okay.
roles, but also working for the state.
Right, so it would be like a extra duty, extra pay kind of thing. Okay. Okay, that's all I had.
My question is regarding the 5F, the slide with 5F indicating that 75% of enrollment-based formula funds have to go to a school. Have we done any preliminary assessment of our budget to determine where we fall in regard to that?
I don't believe so, no.
Is that something that we can work toward to ensure that we are reaching or plan to reach that benchmark?
So in our work groups, all of our work groups, actually, part of what we're doing is trying to get a jump start on our implementation and how we're going to achieve all of these elements. So that's in the works, but until we get guidance from the AIB in terms of what the criteria is, we really can't get too deep into that. But yes, that is a discussion that we'll be having.
Well, I'm confused. That's, the 75% is, just means that school districts will receive at least 75% of the additional, the blueprint money, if they're adequately implementing the guidelines, right? So we will have to assume we're going to get 100%, because we should be always meeting. Yes. Okay, that's the way I read it. And just lastly, the fact that they're going to be tracking the teacher quality and making sure that the teachers are teaching in the field, studied and the like. My whole thing with the state is that they're the ones that could help increase the number of teachers that are being graduated in Maryland. And so I'm hoping that their part of their responsibility for this blueprint is trying to solve the teacher shortage in our area, because we certainly have issues there, and we're always having to bring in from out of state. So hopefully that you can keep elevating that message that they need to try to help increase the number of teachers in the state of Maryland.
I think that's all of our questions. Thank you so much for the presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.